Crosstown rival. We'll have the latest updates on the Point Park men's and women's basketball teams as they face off against Carlow University tonight.
Breaking records. We'll sit down with one member of the Point Park cross country team who put up record numbers at NAIA Nationals.
And Thanksgiving Showdown. Our reporters will debate the best Thanksgiving sporting events of all time. It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline.
Good evening and welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm Sarah Maculin.
And I'm Mike Turk. While most students spent Thanksgiving break at home, the Point Park women's basketball team started off their break in Indianapolis at the Marion Classic.
That's right, Mike, and the women left the tournament empty-handed with 2 losses, both to ranked opponents. To discuss these games and tonight's game against Carlow, we bring in Allison Schubert. So I mentioned they played 2 tough opponents in Indianapolis, and they've been facing tough competition since the very beginning. But their conference play starts tonight versus Carlow. How important is it that they pick up a win tonight?
I think it's important, but it's not vital. I do think it's important because, one, it's a win is a win, but also because of their mentality right now. When you're facing all of these ranked teams, it's easy to say you're doing well against ranked teams, and they really are. Their talent has pretty much been hand in hand with the talent of even number 4 Marion, but it's easy to kind of get into that mindset of we keep losing, we're a bad team, and that's, again, like I said, super easy to do, and Coach Grenick has talked about that too. So I think a win tonight would really solidify that they are a good team, and they will continue to be a good team throughout the conference play.
They've been playing top 25 NAIA teams to start off this season, most recently number 14 St. Francis, and as you just mentioned, number 4 Marion. What do you think, how's this going to test them early on in the season as they're getting ready for conference play?
I think it's a good test for them because they are living up to those expectations and they are kind of playing at the same level, especially against Marion. They only lost by 5 points, so I think that's a really good test for them. But again, it can be kind of dangerous with that mindset and that level of confidence because confidence has played a huge factor into this team historically and even this season so far. So, you know, I think that these early games have been a good test for them, and I think that going into conference they'll see that if they keep playing at the level they've been, these conference games will be easier.
Now you mentioned confidence being a huge factor in this team. In December, they play 6 games. Out of their 6 games in December, they play 5 of those games at home at CCAC Allegheny. How much of that is a confidence booster for them, and having that home court advantage is going to be a good push for them at the start of the conference play in December?
Well, talking to Coach Grenick and just talking to some of the players, they obviously love playing at home. I mean, any player does. So I think that's going to be huge for them because a ton of these games so far have been on the road. And again, they're playing up to expectations on the road, and we've seen them win at home. So I think that being at home is definitely going to boost their mentality, boost their confidence, and lead to some wins here in December.
Well, thanks so much, Allison. Now the men's basketball team also hit the road over Thanksgiving break, but their travels took them north to Buffalo, New York.
Yes, Sarah, and unfortunately, the men's team suffered the same fate as the women, losing both games on the road trip by significant margins. To discuss what's next for the men's basketball team, we are joined by Taylor Spirito. Now, Taylor, the men's basketball team, been a little bit of a rocky start here this season, 2-4. What's the confidence looking like here early on?
I mean, it's not that great. They are on a 3-game losing streak right now. They lost to Villa Maria College and Bryant and Stratton, and then they lost to Washington Adventist. You know, when you have a losing streak like that, your mentality is not going to be very high, but, you know, we see this team succeeding, but they just can't finish a game. They were winning at one point during all of these games, whether it be in the very beginning or the very end, just by point totals. If they could get in that mentality to finish these games, play a full game, we could see them come away with a win and really just finish strong. We just need to see that from them.
Now, Point Park has a lot of talented guards on their roster. I mean, you look at Daniel King, Nassim Pleas, both returners, and even Mark Shahady got some minutes off the bench last year. But they're missing that big man down low in Fusini Konate, who graduated last year. And they're hoping in start of the second semester to get Cortez Allen back. But how has that lack of that big man been hurting this team so far early on in the season?
Well, I remember last year coming on for men's basketball, I talked about Fusini Konate a lot. Cortez Allen, he's a big guy, he's 6'6". He's so long overdue to get on the court. I mean, I think Turk and I were talking earlier, he transferred here. He's just been waiting to get on the court. And, when you're waiting that long, you're always looking to impress. So I think that if he can, take advantage of his opportunity, he could be that guy. But I guess we'll have to see.
Now, last season, you had some pivotal players who really stepped up. Daniel King, Nassim Pleas. Now, they're having pretty good years so far in this season. Who else has been sticking out on that stat sheet this year?
So in the past 3 games that they've lost, I've noticed on the score sheet, Justice Cuthbertson. He's a senior. He has played in 5 games. He's started 3 of them. He's had 19 rebounds on the season. He had 19 points in the Villa Maria game. He had 10 points and 5 rebounds in the Bryant Stratton game, and he had 18 points in the game at Washington Adventist. Now, he was the only Point Park player in that game against Washington to have double digits in points. He's really been stepping it up in these games. If he can keep that going and get a win under his belt with this team while still having those awesome numbers, it's going to be awesome for the team and for him.
Well, thank you, Taylor, for that coverage. And while the men's and women's basketball seasons are just getting started, the cross-country teams wrapped up their seasons on November 16th at the NAIA National Championship.
That's right, Mike, and one member of the Point Park women's cross-country team did not disappoint, and her name is Anna Shields. To discuss her and the rest of the cross-country team's success at Nationals, we bring in Nick Kosiski.
Okay, Nick, we bring her up every time we talk cross-country. Anna Shields, shoo-in for Hall of Fame here at Point Park. Right now, do you think she is the best athlete at Point Park University?
Honestly, this is one of my favorite topics, by the way. Love when you bring it up. Honestly, I think there's a lot of great athletes. For her, though, in particular, I think she definitely shown the most improvement, and she definitely shows the most potential at this point because she's still going. I mean, she first at Nationals. Like, that's pretty crazy. So, like you said, definitely in Hall of Fame, and definitely in all our hearts because we will remember her.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough to make the next step forward past Anna Shields because she's made such a name in this Point Park track and field cross-country history to have at this school. But who's some other players on the women's team that you see stepping up?
Alyssa Campbell. She's only a freshman, and she's already trying to follow in Anna's footsteps, and she's already been doing a lot of great things. So I think that she's gonna carry that team, definitely. And there's a lot of seniors that graduated too, a couple of them. So these underclassmen really just got to step it up and show their leadership these next few years.
Now, on the men's side, it probably wasn't the best season for them, but there was one silver lining in there, and Xavier Stevens,
Yes.
who had a heck of a good performance up at Cedar Rapids recently. Can you tell us a little bit about his performance up there?
His performance was amazing. He finally broke 26. So happy for him. He always wanted to do that. The day finally came. So he definitely is, pretty ecstatic. And the whole men's team did pretty good, and throughout the season. And it's really good that Xavier made it to Nationals. And I think that he did what he wanted to do. So good for him.
And that's not something that happens all the time.
No.
And it was the first time in Point Park history, so that's not something
Wow,
that's a
yeah.
common achievement.
No, definitely. Good for Xavier.
Thanks, Nick. Now, coming up next, we have an exclusive interview with cross-country runner Xavier Stevens, who made Point Park history last week at the Nationals.
And find out if the Steelers were able to keep their 6-game winning streak alive in Denver. All that and more next.
All right, we're ready.
Oh, no. You are right here.
Is the win really necessary, guys? We need the one. Okay.
You go today. Awful. You. Awful.
Okay, I need someone to make me laugh.
Where's Wyatt? Wyatt's always late, duh.
I'm here. Jealous?
Get out of my way. Stop.
Cool. Okay. And now we're smiling. There's a lot of noise going on. A lot of noise.
3, 2, 1.
Here at the Pioneer Sideline.
We covered the real sports.
On another season, the Penguins are just getting started with the regular season this week.
Pioneer Sideline.
The show that starts your Friday mornings has returned with both familiar and new faces. Daybreak host Taylor Fife and Delaney Bomas are bringing you the latest updates in Pittsburgh and Point Park news. We also have a variety of talent on our free segments. Whether it be singing, dancing, or indeed egg smashing. Start your mornings with us at Daybreak on UView at UView Television.
Welcome back. Before the break, we discussed with Nick Kosiski how the Point Park cross-country teams wrapped up their seasons at the NAIA National Championship. And one name Nick mentioned was Xavier Stevens.
That's right, Mike. Stevens with an individual qualifier at the meet and set a school record, becoming the first runner in program history to break 26 minutes for an 8,000-meter race with a time of 25:59. We're now joined by Xavier himself to discuss this major accomplishment.
Now, Xavier, first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great accomplishment. You broke that 26 minutes by 1 second.
Yeah.
1 second. Every second counts, I guess, in sports. But what I wanted to ask you was, when you're running, were you thinking you were on pace to break this record?
Yes and no. Like through the 5K, I was like, all right, I'm on pace. But then like my fourth mile, I kind of slowed down and had to like pick it up for the last mile.
So you're still a junior, and you have one more season to go. So how do you, I mean, it's already, we talked about it, broke program history, so there's not much more you can go from here except maybe a couple more seconds. What's your goals you have for track season and for next year?
Track season, I want to try to be All-American in the 1,000 and qualify in a couple individual events. Hopefully we can get like our 4x8 in DMR. And then hopefully for cross next year, just try to PR and see how close I can get to All-American.
Now, the recap article online, pointparksports.com, written by Kevin Taylor, it officially has you labeled as the fastest man at Point Park University. How does that feel to have that label with you?
It's pretty nice. I mean, there's definitely like, we have a lot of good athletes on the team, so I don't know if I'm technically the fastest.
By time you are, though.
Yeah, maybe.
So now before the race, your personal best was a good 30 seconds off of that at 26:37. So you beat that by 38 seconds. How were you able to beat that number you had set and go and reach 25:59?
I think it was just like a lot of mentality. Like we talked about that like with my coaches, like Coach Jim and Coach Parsley, that I just need to work on like going out. Like my first mile is usually good, then it's like the third and fourth miles where I need to work on. And I think it came together for at nationals, and like I got it done. So.
Now, what can you say about the other side, the women's side? Did you, by chance, talk to Anna Shields after her race when she won?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, what'd you say to her? Did she have anything to say or offer?
Just congratulations, and it was cold, so it was really cold, but she was prepared, and I think she was mentally ready, and, well, she won, so.
How was that cold weather, though? Did that affect you at all?
That was the coldest cross-country race
Really?
I've ever won, yeah. It was like you just run, and you really didn't get warm.
Now, that's got to get you excited for the indoor season, though, right?
Definitely.
I mean, how's that looking so far this year?
It's looking pretty good. I think this is one of the years I've been most excited to go into indoor. Definitely for the weather. I won't have to run in the rain and cold, so those are always nice conditions.
What kind of events will you be running with this indoor season coming up? What can we expect to hear?
I'll probably be doing mostly mid-distance, like the 800, 1,000 mile, maybe some relays like 4x4, 4x8, maybe a DMR in there.
And what's your favorite out of those, and like how is it different training? We talked about you're finally going indoors, you're getting out of the cold, but going from cross country outdoors to indoors, and then right after that you go into outdoor track. How's the transition like?
It's not bad. Cross country to track is different because like track I don't really run anything over a mile, and then for cross country I'm running 5. So it's a lot more speed work in track, not as much mileage.
Now, breaking 26 was one of your big goals. Looking forward, you still have another season coming up. Do you have any more personal goals you want to set for yourself maybe in the off season you want to work on?
For cross country anyway, I want to be like, see how close I can get to All-American for next year and see how close I can get to like low 25s. That's like my goal for that. And then just track, just keep getting better and try to be All-American.
Now, this is an exciting individual accomplishment for you, but it's also something I would like to think that your teammates take pride in and are excited to see that. How do you think something like that, you stepping up to the plate, rubs off on them or something that they think they can achieve?
Oh, definitely. I think it definitely helps. Just like we have a lot of good freshmen coming in, and them like running and training with me can help push them, and they help push me too. So it's like, I think we're all like helping each other and working together as a team.
Now, I got a personal question. Whenever I used to run, I don't run that much anymore, I had to listen to music. You guys obviously are not allowed to listen to music. What goes through your head during these races? I'm just curious. What do you think about for that long period of a time?
I'm just trying to think of like getting through the race, and all right, like I try to break it down in my head. I'm like, all right, like once I get through the 5K, I'm like, all right, I got like 2 miles left. Or at Nationals, when I got through the 5K, I was like, all right, it's like 10 minutes till track season.
Oh, jeez. Xavier, I couldn't do that, but again, congratulations on your accomplishment. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, next coming up, we have the latest news in Pittsburgh sports.
And later, Thanksgiving is a time for family and for sports. Our reporters will debate the best Thanksgiving games of all time. Stay tuned.
I know just the trick. Bippity, boppity, boop! Much better. Guys, Samir Nesby, and I'm outside of the Benedum Center right now. So in just a few moments, we're going to go inside the Benedum Center to talk to Trevor Dion Nicholas, who plays the genie in Disney's Aladdin. I'm Samir Nesby giving you the theatrical scoop for the Berg. Hey guys, so I'm now inside the Benedum Center with Trevor Dion Nicholas, who plays the genie in Disney's Aladdin.
Welcome back. Both Pittsburgh football teams have been hot as of late, with the Panthers clinching the ACC Coastal Division recently, and the Steelers riding a 6-game winning streak.
That's right, and to tell us more about both football teams as well as an update on the Penguins, we'll toss things over to Colton Tobias.
Well, Mike and Sarah, it was not a good week football-wise for the city of Pittsburgh, as both the Steelers and the Pitt Panthers lost their games this past weekend. The Panthers had a tough game Saturday afternoon against the Miami Hurricanes to close out the regular season as they lost 24-3. Pitt's offense could not generate anything whatsoever as the Panthers are without starting center Jimmy Morrissey for the rest of the season due to injury. Quarterback Kenny Pickett was sacked 6 times, while running backs Darren Hall and Quadri Olison were contained to only 75 yards on the ground. Hopefully, this loss can serve some motivation as they will face number 2 ranked Clemson in Charlotte on Saturday for the ACC Championship. It was the same story on Sunday for the Steelers as they lost a heartbreaker to the Denver Broncos 24-17. even though the Steelers' offense had 527 total yards and controlled the time of possession by almost 10 minutes. But it was very frustrating, however, as the offense had 4 costly turnovers, including an interception thrown by Ben Roethlisberger in the end zone to Broncos nose tackle Shelby Harris during the final minute of play. A touchdown would have tied the game. The Steelers are back in action at Heinz Field on Sunday night to take on the Chargers. There was a silver lining, however, this past weekend, as the Penguins are starting to get back on track with picking up 4 points with wins against the Dallas Stars and the Columbus Blue Jackets, along with picking up 1 point in an overtime loss to the Boston Bruins. The Penguins are back in action tonight in Winnipeg to take on the Jets.
Thanks, Colton. Now the NFL season just wrapped up Week 12 last night, and the playoff race is getting tighter.
As the season begins to wind down, which teams are in the hunt and prime for a Super Bowl run? For more details on national sports coverage, we bring in Aaron Becker.
That's right, guys. This NFL season has been nothing short of exciting. New teams are on the rise and others are on the fall. The Jacksonville Jaguars started the season 3-1 and were one of the most talked about teams as a Super Bowl contender entering this season. However, they now sit at 3-8. On Monday, the Jags fired their offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, after losing their 7th consecutive game on Sunday. And head coach Doug Marrone has also said that he is benching Blake Bortles and that the backup quarterback Cody Kessler will take over for the rest of the season, hoping to find more production in their passing game. In other news, Tom Brady broke the NFL record for the most pass yards in NFL history, including postseason. On Sunday, as the New England Patriots defeated the New York Jets 27-13. He passed Peyton Manning and now has 79,416 passing yards. However, Brady only cared that they got the win, and that's what they did, as the Patriots are now 8-3 and have the number 2 seed in the AFC. Phillip Rivers also broke an NFL record this past weekend after he completed his first 25 passes in the San Diego Chargers game against the Arizona Cardinals. The Chargers routed the Cardinals 45-10, increasing their record to 8-3. The Chargers continue to be a team flying under the radar, however, as they sit behind the 9-2 Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West. And the National Football League is also making some history, as it is joining forces with Disney to expand its draft coverage. ABC will broadcast all 3 days of the 2019 NFL Draft, including 2 nights of primetime coverage, for the first time in its history. ABC will be the exclusive broadcast home of the event, and the draft specials will be anchored by ESPN's College Game Day. The 2019 NFL Draft is scheduled for April 25th to the 27th in Nashville, Tennessee, and the San Francisco 49ers right now hold the first overall pick.
Thanks, Aaron. Now, when we come back, it's time for everyone's favorite segment, the Case of the Week.
This week, our reporters will dive into their Thanksgiving memories to debate the greatest Thanksgiving game of all time. That's next on the Pioneer Sideline.
All right, we're ready.
Oh, no. You are right here.
Is the win really necessary, guys? We need the win. Okay.
You go take awful. You. Awful.
Okay, I need someone to make me laugh.
Where's Wyatt? Wyatt's always late, duh.
I'm here. Jealous?
Get out of my way. Stop.
Cool. Okay. And now, we're smiling. There's a lot of noise going on. Let's keep the background.
3, 2, 1.
Here at the Pioneer Sideline,
we cover the real sports.
Another season, the Penguins are just getting started with the regular season this week.
Pioneer Sideline.
show that starts your Friday mornings has returned with both familiar and new faces. Daybreak host Taylor Fife and Delaney Bomis are bringing you the latest updates in Pittsburgh and Point Park news. We also have a variety of talent on our free segments. Whether it be singing, dancing, or indeed egg smashing. Start your mornings with us at Daybreak on UView at UView Television.
Welcome back. Sports on Thanksgiving is a time-honored tradition, whether that's playing a friendly and competitive turkey bowl with family or watching the football games after filling up on turkey and pumpkin pie.
Here at the Pioneer Sideline, we do a little bit of both and have watched our fair share of Thanksgiving games. But which Turkey Day face-off is the greatest of all time? It's time for the Case of the Week. To debate, we have joining us Aaron Becker and Colton Tobias. So, best Thanksgiving game of all time. I mean, I'd like to think both of you football guys have football as typically not, that's really the only sport that goes on around Thanksgiving. You get college basketball here and there, but unless it's like a big matchup, it's not really talked about. What do you guys got?
Yeah, so this was actually really, really tough for me because there's a lot of great games you can pick from. You know, you had the Lions-Steelers controversial coin toss, you have the butt fumble, you have Barry Sanders' hat trick, but I had to go with the Vikings versus Cowboys in 1998, where Randy Moss had 3 catches and 3 touchdowns for 163 yards. It was a very exciting game, but I like the story behind the game more. So Randy Moss, 21st overall pick in the draft that previous year. He wasn't too happy with that pick, though. He wanted to be higher, so he said after he was drafted by the Vikings, he said, I'm going to make all the teams that passed over me pay for not taking me at that time. So his rookie season, they play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and he lights it up for them. So it was a very exciting game. On top of the fact, what makes an exciting game? High scoring, the final 46-36 Vikings. So that's my pick.
And not many people follow through on bets like that. A lot of people, young kids coming out of college, they're unhappy with the pick they're from, but not many can follow through with that. But Randy Moss is one of the players that did. Colton, how about you?
I am going to be sticking with the Cowboys, and also another loss as well. I am picking the 1993 Thanksgiving matchup when Dan Marino and the Dolphins went down to Dallas to face the Cowboys. And this game was already crazy in itself, in my opinion, because it was snowing in Dallas. Like in all places, that's a place that doesn't get very much snow. But what I love about this is the Cowboys had this game in the bag in the final minutes. The Dolphins kicker had a 41-yard field goal that he tried to get, and it was blocked. And then I saw the camera immediately pointed towards Jerry Jones in celebration, and then out of nowhere, for some reason, and this is one thing I don't understand. Out of all people, Leon Lent touches the ball at the 10-yard line, and the ball wasn't down at that time since it was blocked. So the Dolphins did get another shot at the field goal, and they will go on to win the game. But I was looking this up. I actually didn't know this. This actually worked out in the Cowboys' favor because the Cowboys went on to go win the Super Bowl that year. They won on the repeat as Super Bowl champions, and the Dolphins also finished the season 9-2 after that game, but they would fall to 9-7, missing out on the playoffs. So I just thought it was a really interesting story there in Dallas.
It's definitely an interesting story. I mean, you like to think Thanksgiving games, you're sitting around with your family, so it's nice to have something there that's not just your typical standard game. So something that pops out to you, especially that with both teams, but yours with an individual. So you guys took 2 different ends of the spectrum, even though you took games. I noticed that both of you probably weren't alive for. In 1998, I was a year old. You guys probably weren't even born.
No, 1998. Probably a few months old.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Both those games are very interesting. I love Randy Moss's story. He's supposed to go to Notre Dame, got into some trouble in West Virginia when he was living there, had to settle for Marshall. That's why I think he dropped so low. If he would have went to Notre Dame, I think he would have been a top 3 pick at least, top 5
more
possibly.
Highlight.
And then Leon Lett, the famous call, Leon Lett, no! It's just such an infamous moment. That's one. Those are 2 things I think about right away when I think about Thanksgiving football. That, and I think we all can think of another one that we really weren't alive for. Jerome Bettis.
Yeah, the coin
Yeah.
toss.
Heads, tails.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
boy.
that was very infamous.
I mean,
moment.
that's always one that's going to go down in history, and that wasn't, the game hadn't even started yet,
yeah.
so that has nothing to do with the game itself. So a lot of interesting things going on Thanksgiving with football. I mean, there's so many to pick from, but you guys chose some great ones. So that's all we have time for this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time
The same Pioneer channel.
and the same Pioneer sideline.